Thank you again. This is Ihide Imumorin, the Executive Director of CSUBIOTECH. We are very honored today to have Mr. Michael Morotti, who is the Global Business Director for Sapio Sciences. He is one of us, which I found out was quite exciting. He's an alumnus of Fresno State. He's going to tell us a little bit more about his own background in a bit. But I just want to thank you all for taking our time today to join us. And we will soon turn this over to Mike and sit back, relax, and let's get this show on the road. Thank you. Over to you, Mike.
All right, great. Joining webinar. All right. Good morning. Good evening for me. Greetings from Umeå, Sweden. Couple thousand miles away from the folks in California. 8 hours time zone difference. It's an honor to be here today. I want you to relax. There is a test. The test is in life. So what we take away from this meeting today will hopefully help you in your endeavors to be great in your career, in your chosen career, and as a student or career in the future. I was asked to present to the students, which is why I'm here today. And we're going to keep it light. If I can get there we go. There we go. I love PowerPoint. Been using it for 20 years. It still dazzles me, but we'll do intros a little bit. We'll talk about you as students. I'll talk hopefully not too much about me, but enough to earn some credibility, maybe inspire you. Who do we look for? What do we look for? What have I looked for over my career and the various roles that I've had? How do you get an internship? And what kind of skills do we look for? Not just me, because it's more than just me. So in terms of background, I want you to know, if you can see me on the left, I used to be young. I had a lot of energy then. I probably have more energy now than I did then. But one of the things we look for is energy, enthusiasm, passion, kind of that it factor, right? So we'll talk more about that. But the guy on the right in front of the helicopter, that's also me. And these two photos are really here to show you that there's no direct path. There's no direct path to get to where I am today, okay? But there are some basic things that we'll chat about. And I'll go back to these slides maybe as necessary. I'm just going to show you this morning. This is my drive to work on the left. Don't do this. I was driving. I had three PhDs in the car, molecular biologist, a chemist, and a data scientist. And they weren't real happy that I was driving in snow with my video camera on. But I wanted you to see what the day in the life of Mike Morotti, or the day in the life of your path, could look like if you want it. Umeå, Sweden is an hour's flight north of Stockholm, 8 hours time zone difference from California. I didn't do the math on the distance, but maybe you can check ChatGPT and tell me what the mileage is from California to Stockholm or Umeå. And then this is me taking photos of the group in conference this morning. Okay. Again, more of the same, trying to show this is just the day in the life, right? This is just one day. I could be anywhere in the world. The team could be anywhere in the world. But what you're seeing on the left are some pretty expensive measuring devices in a lab in Umeå. The team on the right, the folks, four of the folks are my teammates, and they're getting a briefing from one of the lab personnel on this particular part of the lab. So again, the photos are just to show you what life in the field looks like, and we'll talk a little bit about like how do you actually get there, right? How do we get there? So I want to go back to this slide. So what do I do? And how did I get here? And how can you also get here, right? This is not the Mike Morotti show. But today I'm Global Director of Business Development for a company called Sapio Sciences. We're a global company. We are founded in York, Pennsylvania, about 20 years ago. And we now have offices in Miami, York, Pennsylvania. We have 2 offices. We have a global office in London. We just put an office in South Korea. And yours truly just opened an office in Granite Bay, California, outside of Sacramento, which is where I live. And I say that to tell you this. We started with 1 employee. I didn't find Sapio Sciences. They found me. So I joined Sapio on October 9th, 2023. Why do I say I'm not supposed to be here? Let's go back a long time to SUNY Oswego, State University of New York at Oswego. I was a freshman way before probably everybody here was born. And I was at a school up on Lake Ontario that was intimidating. I didn't like it there. I didn't like the cold. It was windy. Everybody partied. I was a jock, but I wasn't on a team for the first time in my life. So there were lots of reasons why SUNY Oswego didn't necessarily facilitate me being the best that I could be. Okay. So I wanted to migrate to warmer weather. I wanted to come west, and I wanted to go to what I thought was the dream state. And I still believe it's the dream state in the world. It's one of them. So I transferred to Fresno State in the fall of 1986 against all odds. I had $118 in my bank. I had a bike, I had everything I owned, and I had a one-way ticket. And my parents were not happy that I was leaving. Not at all, not a little bit. As a parent, I can see why. Okay. So the transition to Fresno State from New York was not just cultural, but it was an economic transition. Like I was literally cut off from my parents' funding. So I had to do a bunch of jobs, pay for school, out-of-state tuition. And I had some great jobs while I was in college. I worked at Hot Dog on a Stick. I worked at In-N-Out Burger. No, not In-N-Out. That would have been an upgrade. I worked at Jack in the Box on Shaw Avenue. Basically, I worked jobs, and I worked in an animal lab. That's important. I should notice that. In an animal lab, mice, dogs, rabbits, on the campus of Fresno State. Didn't mean much in 1986, but I'll tell you what, the pictures I showed you this morning brought me back to that day in 1986. So I'm not supposed to be here because all the AI back then, all the leading indicators would have said Mike Morotti should just join the Army and not really be very much. He's not a great student, and He's just kind of aimless. So I'm telling you, it's okay to not know what you want to be when you grow up. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. But for today, I'm Global Director of Biz Dev at Sapio Sciences, a global company, 100% focused in the life sciences. Okay. So, and by the way, the irony of me being here in Umeå and in Stockholm and in Uppsala over the weekend and part of last week, the irony is that the president of Olink Proteomics, who is in Waltham, Massachusetts, he graduated from SUNY Oswego in 1994. So why did I share that with you? Networking is really, really important. It's really important because you can be the smartest student on the planet or the least smartest, at least when I was starting out. If people don't know who you are, you basically have no value, or you have no value that you can realize. Doesn't mean you're not important, and it doesn't mean you're not smart, but being able to articulate your value is really important to people that you network with. So it's difficult to do a one-directional presentation, but in a group, I would ask you, how many of you have LinkedIn accounts? And I hope everybody in this room raised their hand, because LinkedIn, I was one of the first 10,000 users almost 20 years ago. And I would encourage you to get on LinkedIn, because it's going to be how you find a way or many ways to deliver value. So if you get a second, look up me, look up Mike Morotti on LinkedIn. I'll accept your request, but tap into my network. So networking is really, really important. All right. So what is my purpose? What is my why? What's my what and my how? So in 60 seconds or less, I grew up in a family of seven children, four brothers, two sisters, predominantly a manufacturing family in an industrial city that is no longer industrial. They never made the transition into the 21st century. So a city of 20,000 people is now about 4,500 people. Four brothers, two sisters. All of us have at least a master's degree or higher. My mom worked as a nurse in the local hospital for 44 years, and she raised all seven of us. So mommy and daddy weren't going to write me a big check, and they weren't going to ask me what my purpose, my why, my what, and my how was. I was going to have to figure it out on my own. And the beautiful thing about that is I did, right? And it wasn't easy, and it wasn't a straight line. I mentioned some of the jobs that I had just to pay for college. And so I was willing to do that because my purpose was strong. And I always felt a need, a desire to help others. I wanted to help others, even as a little kid shoveling snow, cutting grass, delivering groceries to some of the elderly women in the neighborhood. So my purpose has always been to serve others. And yeah, my why maybe changed throughout my life, and that's okay. You'll notice I flew helicopters. I realized working at Jack in the Box and Hot Dog on a Stick and in an animal lab wasn't my calling, but it was a means to an end. And I thought, well, how could I really be this small town kid from upstate New York and play in the bigger leagues, right? How could I do that? What's one of the ways I could do that? So I found myself in Army ROTC at Fresno State. I'll give you the 30-second version. I ended up joining ROTC. It was very difficult. It forced me to grow up. It forced me to be disciplined. It forced me to get organized. And I found myself kind of liking the challenge to do things that I would have never done on my own, either physically or mentally. And then, flying has always been a passion of mine. I thought, geez, it'd be kind of cool if I could get the military to pay for my flight school, which sounds like, well, you just join the Army and become an officer and sign up for flight school and they send you away. That path in and of itself could be a 2-hour session. But I will tell you my why and my desire outweighed anything else. My dad was a World War II veteran, being one of 5 boys. I wanted to be a son that could differentiate within the family and make my dad proud. So I spent 12.9 years in total in the military, some in the reserves and some on active duty. And that has really helped form who I am today. Okay. I will sprinkle hopefully some pearls throughout the presentation, but I will tell you that discipline is the platform required to be successful. Okay. I'm going to say that again. Discipline is the required platform. If you don't have discipline, you are going to struggle. If you can't show up to meetings on time, there will be directors of global business development that will ask you to find a job somewhere else. The real world is harsh. So showing up on time is not an option. Don't let that scare you. Just become more disciplined. Get out of bed earlier, get in your car earlier, show up 15, 20 minutes early. No one will ever yell at you for being early unless you're a military pilot like I was, and we don't need to have that conversation, but being plus or minus 30 seconds as an aviator is really the goal. A very tight window, I might add. You won't be asked that in the real world, okay? But having a purpose, and your purpose can change, and spend the time with yourself, do the research, talk to your professors, get uncomfortable, talk to your fellow students from other countries that don't look like you, that don't talk like you, that have different belief systems. Get to know them. You never know that one of your stick buddies can be a Saudi prince or the son of a prince, such as my case. You're networking, you're meeting people that don't look like you. Really important. So, of all the slides, of all the bullet points, your purpose, your why, your what, and your how are really important. If you haven't seen Simon Simek's TED Talk on why, please watch the YouTube video. He talks about your why, okay? If you walked into an organization, almost all of the Sapio sciences can tell you what we do, okay? Almost everybody at Sapio, 105 employees, can tell you what we do. We are a software company that is created to enable scientists to do more science and focus on the things they care about and not being data administrators at a computer system, okay? That is what we do. Fewer will know how we do it. So how we do it is we're a machine learning system founded 20 years ago. It just so happens that AI fell into our hands because we started out as a machine learning company, and we've built a bunch of modules in the life sciences space to help scientists do their job better, more efficiently, with the mission of discovering drugs and or therapeutics much faster so they can come to market for the patients that need them. So that's the what. But the how and the what are pretty easy, but the why do we do it? And you'll notice I get animated because I'm passionate. Why do we do it? Well, let me tell you why I do it. I'll tell you why I'm here and why I'm here today talking to you. I was a student and I've been a student since. I've never stopped being a student. And I would encourage you to never stop asking your professors hard questions. I was kind of a difficult student. Professor Mark Kepler in the business school at Fresno State pulled me aside one day after class and said, "You know, Mike, you're lazy. You are underutilized talent. You're just, I don't know, you're just checking the boxes. You're barely showing up." I didn't like that. Mark Kepler's at University of Wisconsin law grad. He also went to SUNY Oswego undergrad, a little common thread there. But he pushed me, and I'll tell you this: he's with the Maddie Institute, in Fresno. And he wrote my letter of recommendation many, many years later when I wanted to go to grad school at Northwestern. So network, 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 but your platform is discipline. You have to be disciplined. You got to get up earlier and you got to go to bed later. And you have to take care of your mind and your physical self, right? Those things all play into all of this. But if you can really figure out your why, and I'll get to my why in a second. My why also changed, but for the last 15 years, it hasn't changed. I had a health, after the military, I went into medical devices. I spent a lot of time in the operating room, worked with neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, all the surgeons, probably been in 1,500 hospitals globally in the operating rooms over my lifetime. And my mom, who was a nurse for 44 years, I got really sick and she died of an adverse drug event. And that kind of rocked my world. It really shook me to my core. And in 2005, decided to form a company, my first software company, to prevent adverse drug events. It was a company called Validus Medical Systems. We created the world's first mobile computerized physician order entry. Well, what is that? That's a mouthful. When doctors are ordering tests or medications, exams, anything at a hospital has to start with an order. So at that time, that was all done through handwriting, through verbal orders, and all of the impact of misinterpretation, not understanding what someone said. Did they say 325 milligrams or was it 325 grams? And all the things that could go wrong with misinterpretation. We built the company around it. I spent 7.5 years of my life trying to prevent people like my mom, who served their whole lives, from dying. Okay. That was hugely successful for a million reasons, but I then was able to take that and apply it to maybe larger populations instead of one patient. So I should step back for a second. In 2006, the Leapfrog group calculated that the equivalent of 1,747 a day crashing were how many people were dying of adverse drug events. That's around 500 people a day that they knew. That's a lot of people. And so our company really was pioneering that effort to help doctors through information and machine learning make better decisions at the bedside, over the phone, remotely, however they needed to do it, because we automated, digitized that process. So my why got much stronger then, and it applies today. My why, people are I don't know. I just encourage you, if you don't have a why, find one. Okay. And getting a job may be your why initially. Paying the bills may be your why, or that may be your what. But I encourage you to really dig in deep there. Okay. Keeping an eye on time. How did I end up here? And I think this is going to be a 60-second answer. Everything that I've done to date, so SUNY Oswego, Fresno State, the military, starting a company, selling a company, doing an IPO, which if you don't know what an IPO is, an initial public offering, taking a private company public onto Wall Street is really pretty cool. It's good work if you can get it. The lessons are incredible, and it can be very rewarding financially, but it doesn't have to be the end state, right? Just being a part of that is a cool thing. How did I end up here? So there are many times when you'll be asked to take on a job and you join the organization and it's in turmoil, or you join the organization that just laid off 20 people and you're the 21st hire and they want you to resurrect it. I'm laughing because I've kind of been in those situations. And then there are times when you can join a company like Sapio that is scaling and they're looking for intelligent, focused, disciplined, highly networked people, in this case, life sciences, who want to tell the story. They want to tell a story. Okay. So when you get old like me, you're going to have a lot of stories. And some of them are really cool. Some of them are kind of difficult to hear, military stories. But most of them are amazing, and most of them are around humans, like the amazing things that humans can do when they have a strong why and they know what their what is and they know how to do it, right? So Sapio recruited me out of London, summer of 2023. It's the hardest job I've ever had. I've never worked harder. I work 7 days a week. I do work probably 12, 13-hour days, which sounds crazy. You're like, well, I don't want that job. That sounds like a terrible job, but it's mostly me. My children are in college now. They're your age, 19, 22. My son's 27. He's already graduated. So I have a lot more free time to devote to my passion, to my why. And if I can save one life because of getting up early and going to bed late, it's the most rewarding feeling in the world. So I ended up at Sapio Sciences because all the work that I've done, and because I'm on LinkedIn and I have about 8,900 first line connections, which doesn't happen overnight. But if you set a goal to add 10 connections a week, do the math on what 10 connections a week are over 52 weeks, over 10 years. I promise you, your network will be huge. And then tell it what you want it to know about you. Personalize it. Make it your brand. Make it part of your brand. Okay, so we're at 8:32. I'll pause. Are we still on track? People still awake? And anything will be good feedback that I should keep going.
Yes, yes, Mike. I think we're
Okay,
on track.
great, great. So this is a group of science and technology and math folks today. You may decide I'm going into business. Good, do it. So I've been primarily a businessman for most of my career, probably since I was 2 years old, convincing the neighbors, let me deliver your groceries, let me shovel your snow, let me cut your lawn, let me sit with you and drink tea and just talk, right? A servant leadership style has been a part of me since I even knew what that was. And in fact, I didn't know what it was when I was little. But giving to others in a way that can be rewarding, not just monetarily. And that's so much part of your why. So when I'm given like 5 seconds or less to mentor students, find your passion and find a way to make money doing it. Okay. So if you hear nothing else today, find your why and find out a way to monetize it. Okay. I don't care what it is. If your why is strong enough, you almost won't even notice if you get paid or not. Okay. By the way, I do like getting paid. I need to get paid. I have two daughters in college. So someone has to pay their expenses. And college is expensive. I do know that. So I ended up here because they recruited me, they interviewed, they liked me. And I will tell you, I've had a lot of amazing jobs. Sapio Sciences is one of the coolest positions I've ever had. I get to travel the globe, telling the story, working with PhD chemists, microbiologists, data scientists. You can fill in the blanks, but folks that are actually doing what you are studying to do. And I should have said people that do data analytics, math people. I mean, you can really imagine the folks that I work with, and they're all over the world. So, and check out Sapio. Go to our website, check it out, and ask yourself, Do I have the discipline to be able to get a job at a company like this? Do I know the people at Sapio that I could ask? And you better say yes to that after today. Can I have an internship here? Could I work there someday? How does that look? Where do I start? Because you have to have a path forward. And having a mentor, whether it be a professor or some old guy in Sweden presenting to you over a Zoom, start now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till tomorrow. Okay. Um, how do you get an internship while you're in school? Well, let me tell you how I did it. I asked. I've never been afraid to ask questions. My daughters would say, Daddy, why do you talk to everybody? We're in the airport, we're in restaurants. Why do you talk to everybody? Because I'm genuinely interested in people. I like people. Why did I talk to my host, the gentleman who introduced me? Why am I here? Because he and I talked. And we chatted at a show in San Diego a couple months ago, and we got along. And he's a wonderful man. And he's like, geez, you have a cool job. Would you consider presenting to our students? I said, of course I would. How soon can I sign up? And then he found out I was a Fresno State graduate. And then he probably was even more excited because I'm not just a bunch of hot air on a Zoom. I actually lived it. I lived it. Okay. And I'm still living it. And I hope to be able to do this till I'm 90 years old. When people ask me, do you want to retire? I said, never. If I retire, then I don't have a why anymore. So I'll just keep, facilitating my why and do bigger and better things the older I get, because the older I get, the better I get. And the more I learn because I'm a lifelong student. So how do I get an internship? Ask. Geez, you have Chat GPT now. How do I get an internship? You're going to get more in 30 seconds that I could give you in 2 days. Okay. Do it. Be disciplined. Be hungry. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I read this probably last night at 2 a.m, but the question, we've all been in environments, school, lecture, any environment where you're afraid to ask a question. You're afraid of what it looks like to ask a question. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay. The dumb question is the one not answered. Okay. I don't even know if you can use that word anymore, but I just did. So ask, go to LinkedIn, do your research online, ask your professors, ask fellow students, ask Mike Morotti. And then lastly, and I know we're coming up on Q&A, what do I look for? What do we look for? I will tell you a story. When I was the president of MedSphere out of Carlsbad, MedSphere was a software company. I'll leave it right there. And my CEO was a very successful CEO. He was a multi-billionaire. He took Advent, a software company that did derivatives for Wall Street. He took them public, private, public, private, public. That's unheard of. He made a lot of money. Michigan graduate, very smart, grew up in a one-bedroom farmhouse in Michigan, like grew up with no running water. Okay. Where am I going with this? I've met folks like Irv Lichtenwald, like Mike Morotti, all over the globe. What do we look for? Resilience, discipline, passion, energy, enthusiasm. Can you be taught? Do you listen, or are you going to show up with your Starbucks 10 minutes late and blame it on somebody else? I have fired, you can quote me, I have fired more Harvard, Yale, Princeton MBAs than you can imagine because they don't have the things that I'm looking for. They have the fancy degree from the fancy school, but they can't show up on time. They can be arrogant. Some can be amazing. They like to pass blame on others. They're not necessarily teachable, and I'm not just picking on the Ivy Leagues. I'm really not. I'm giving you real life examples. So be passionate, be enthusiastic. It's okay if you're shy. I know this is going to be shocking. I was shy when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I was intimidated. School was scary for me. I was never a good student, ever. When I got to Northwestern, I was intimidated. I was scared. They put me on posters. They put me on the Chicago Transit Authority buses and all the me, the guy that graduated from Northwestern that wasn't supposed to be here today. So I just threw a lot at you. I know. This is recorded. You can always watch it again if you're curious or disciplined. But I mostly want to say, thank you for listening. I'll open it up for questions, and I think I'll leave it right there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. That was wonderful. Wonderful. I think I'm beginning to think I need to decide what I'm going to do when I grow up. Please join me in thanking Mike for that wonderful presentation. I think for those who may have attended more than one of these things since we began this in September, you may have noticed that Mike's approach is a little different. And I think it's different for two key reasons. Mike is the first speaker we have had in this webinar series who is not a traditional scientist, right? Our last two speakers, PhDs or people who actually do science where they work. When they work at the bench or they're involved in, day-to-day scientific stuff. But Mike is not bringing that approach to the table. He's bringing a slightly different angle of somebody who may not have been a traditionally trained scientist, but is working inside of the trenches of science, working with scientists and able to translate that work into the marketplace. It's a thing. It's a skill. It's not an easy skill to have. And so we are really honored and we appreciate him taking some time to share some of these insights with us. And now we're going to open this up to questions. Please go to the Q&A and type in your questions, and Mike will take them as they come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. I know I always scare people. They're afraid to ask questions.
We hope to get a few questions in. We still have about a dozen people in the webinar. Well, let me ask the first question, Mike.
Sure.
You said students should ask if they want to get an internship. Just go ahead and ask.
Mm-hmm.
You said something about making sure you have a updated, current LinkedIn profile, and to use that as a kind of a platform or a jumping off board to ask questions. What is your take on maybe sending cold messages to people on LinkedIn, maybe people you don't know before, you've never met, you looked at their profile, it looks like an impressive profile, they work in an industry you're interested in, or maybe they have some sort of leadership position. You know what? Maybe somebody like you, who is Global Business Director for Sapio Sciences, and there's this student who is getting a degree in biomedical engineering or computer science or something, and really is interested in your company and would like to explore something, and they just send you a code request to connect.
Mm-hmm. I think that the answer to the question can vary to someone like me who's started from the ground up, if you will. It would resonate with me, and I do it all the time. I send LinkedIn instant messages every day. So Carl Raymond, the president of Olink, who went to Oswego, I sent him an instant message in the blue just a couple months ago. And today we exchanged emails. So don't be afraid. Have a plan. Put your brand together on LinkedIn. Put your best photo on there that you can, that's relevant to today, and start to brand yourself and work slowly and work backwards. If your date is June 1st, 2025, I want to have an internship in Los Alamitos or Los Angeles or Chicago. That's your end state. Work backwards. How am I going to get there? How many people do I need to send messages to in a day? What would my message be? ChatGPT will help you with that, by the way. I know that in the universities, we're not promoting maybe ChatGPT, but can help you with the wording. But be yourself. Say, this is me. I'm a freshman, sophomore, junior at XYZ. Love to work for your company. Make it personal. Okay. Again, this could be a 2-day seminar, but it's not. Use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is wonderful. Use other modalities too. There are other ways to do it, but I think LinkedIn's the best. Okay.
Thank you very much. We have the floor open for questions. Please type in your questions into the Q&A box. Mike will see it. I can also repeat it if necessary, so that we can tap into his wisdom and his experience, and hopefully we can all benefit from his answers.
And while we're waiting, I do appreciate you clarifying my role, right? I'm not a scientist. My master's is in informatics, so I do understand data and databases and software, but I'm not a traditional scientist. Even better, maybe you don't love chemistry. Maybe you don't want to be a PhD in chemistry or biology. That doesn't mean you're doomed. Someone has to tell the story. Someone has to sit at the table this morning in Umeå, Sweden, with a PhD from Cambridge and a PhD from outside of London, and a third guy, and interpret it, to listen and make sense of it. That's what I do. That's what I do. I'm not smart enough to be a scientist. Full disclosure, I'm not. I'm not.
So we just got our first question in for you, Mike.
Sure.
Somebody said, I know you said you were scaling. Any plans to create a Southern California location for your company?
That's a great answer. So considering San Diego is probably the third largest biotech community in the world, you can bet. And if we don't have an office there, we do what's called Sapio sessions. We just did one in September. Reach out to me.
I was there.
You were there. That's right. That's right. We met at a Charles River meeting and then Sapio sessions.
Yep.
So it starts with a desire. Show up, ask questions. So to the anonymous attendee, pretty sure we're going to scale either as Sapio or if we get acquired by a larger company, but we will absolutely have an office in San Diego. But for right now, we have a virtual office. Reach out to me. You don't need to be at a physical office to work for Sapio. Most of us are remote. Fair enough?
Excellent. Excellent.
Thanks to beautiful technologies like this. Now, I'm old enough to where you couldn't do this for a living. You had to go to work, show up on time, get yelled at by surgeons, the dark ages.
I know. It's amazing what technology is making happen now. Right? I was reading recently about a company that was intentionally 100% remote from the day it was founded. They do not have a quote unquote headquarters office anywhere. When they hire you, they give you what they call an office setup allowance of some sort, I don't remember exactly how much it is. The idea was to use that money, buy yourself a nice desk, a nice ergonomic chair, set up your workspace. That was it. That's your office. And when you finish, you have to send pictures back to headquarters. And they just meet in person like once a year. Everybody is 100% remote. Everybody from the CEO to the least person in the company. So technology is changing everything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and
And if
I
you are a
didn't.
software company like Sapio, you don't even have a factory, right? You don't have a factory somewhere. You don't make any physical product.
We code. So our developers are mainly in York, PA. We have some developers scattered throughout the globe as we scale. If you're good, if you're focused and disciplined and have a good energy and you can ask good questions, your job can be where you are. And I didn't tell you this, but I spent a lot of time with surgeons going to the operating room, waiting for surgeons and patients and nurses and anesthesiologists to all show up on time to do one procedure. And I said, man, this is cool, but there's got to be a better way to make a living than fighting traffic into downtown LA or Sacramento, or to go park and go through all the all the barriers to entry to get in the operating room to do my job. I said, what if I could have a job wherever I wanted, as long as I had Wi-Fi or cell coverage? Guess what? It's November 4th, 2024. I'm doing it. It started with a plan, with a goal. I'm doing it. And if I can do it, everyone on this call can do it. Everyone. Everyone. Nobody tapped me on the shoulder and said, you're kind of good looking, you're kind of cool, you're kind of smart. How about this? No, everything that I have, I worked for. And sometimes I scratched, clawed, and argued. I'm pretty sure Professor Mark Kepler at Fresno State's proud of me. Pretty sure my mom's proud of me. And your mentors will be proud of you too. Just go get it. Don't wait till tomorrow. It's almost 1 p.m. in California. You have 10 hours ahead of you. Go make it happen.
Thank you very much, Mike. Do we have any other question for Mike?
Looks like there's one. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
How would you prepare to try and work for an international company, language barriers, etc.? I think let me give that 5 seconds. How would you prepare to try and work for an international company? Well, I'm in Umeå, Sweden, and everyone speaks English in Sweden, so that's an advantage. But a lot of the existing systems are in Swedish, or in different languages. So it's always good to have a friend on the other side. Back to my networking comment, okay? If you want to go work for a company in Riyadh, I have a client there today reaching out to me. You want to go to Riyadh, find out someone on the other side, I call them pathfinders, who speak your language, who can help you find your way within that organization, right? Right? I mean, if I needed to go to somewhere in Africa, right? There's a hospital or a pharmaceutical company in Africa. I can tell you one guy I'm going to probably call right off the bat. Now, I know nothing about this particular country in Africa. Can you help me out? What's the language? Oh, it's this, and this. Okay, I'm going to go do some research on my own. Can you make a phone call for me and help me have a conversation? Sure. Who do you want to talk to? So the more homework you do, the better your questions are. The better your questions are, the more responses you're going to get, the more success you're going to have. To practice, 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 practice. And don't be afraid to ask a dumb question. I ask dumb questions every day. Every day. That's almost part of my persona now. I like when people laugh at me. It makes them loose and Hopefully that helped. LinkedIn also. Sapio Sciences are not offering internships right now. Okay. Generally, we have software engineers at Sapio. Doesn't mean that I can't help or we can't help with some of our clients, right? So we have clients all over the globe, all over the globe. Maybe not in every country, in every city, but if you reached out and said, Mike, I really want to do antibody research. Okay, I know a little bit about that. They happen to be doing it across the hall. Let me make a call for you. Let me send an email for you. Let me send a LinkedIn message for you. Let's ask, right? And the more you know what you want, and at this age, I wouldn't expect you to know even what questions to ask, but that's a great question. So we're not offering internships right now. Here's another way of saying, would you consider creating an internship for me? These are my skills. This is who I am. I'm Bob Smith. I'm Mary. The way that you present yourself is so important. It's so important. And it takes work. It did not happen for me overnight. Like most of you, you're probably deathly afraid to speak in front of groups. I know I was. My mouth would get dry, couldn't talk. But ask the question, if they're not offering an internship, when are they? Go through HR, human resources. Every company has human resources. People managers, people, whatever they call them now, human capital people. It's all about people. This whole world's about people, right? It really is. I should have led with that. People buy from people they like. Well, I'm not selling. I'm a scientist. You're selling. Your experiments are going to generate data. That data is going to go somewhere, either in a, God forbid, it's going to go into a book like this, which is a leather-bound notebook. Hopefully, it's going to go into an electronic notebook. But if it isn't, that data and your value is going to go somewhere. You're telling a story. Trust me. Every day you're telling a story. What
So if you
else?
did have interns, what are the daily tasks that interns might do at a place like Sapio Sciences?
Yeah, what are the daily oh, good. That's a great question. So we have had 2 interns from the summer, at least 2, work on a specific project. Hey, go and build this module used, and I'm not sure what they built. I'm sure I will know once it's released, but they were working as software engineers on coding for a particular module. But it could be anything. It could be really create your own internship. Create it. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what employers love. They love creativity. Don't tell me your problems. Bring me solutions. I haven't really thought of that. Like, geez, you're at UC San Diego and you're an XY, this is your discipline. I'd like to do this for your company. Do you have a need for that at your company? Never thought of that. We never thought of it because we're so busy working 18-hour days, checking email, answering the phone, text messages, Snapchat. Yes, this old guy's on Snapchat. And I do TikTok and I do LinkedIn posts every week, sometimes twice a week, because my audiences are varied. Some of them are 21 college students. Some of them are CEOs of major corporations. Some of them are peers, but I'm building my brand every day. Start building your brand. Ask the questions. Be valuable. Be passionate. Be disciplined. But Mike, I don't even know where to start. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Ask a question. In the absence of direction, ask a question. You will never be ridiculed for asking a question to anyone, really. I mean, unless you're distasteful, but we're not here to talk about that. Just ask the question, where do I start? So the daily tasks can be, they could be all over the place. So I would encourage you to find an internship that actually you like. Like you actually want to do the work. Like cleaning test tubes and beakers is not a good internship. Okay, long-winded. Sorry about that.
All right.
Was it?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. What else? We're at 9 o'clock Sweden time. So
Yeah, we're
I have a
9 o'clock Sweden time, and technically this is supposed to go, longer, but I
oh,
think we seem to have covered quite a bit of ground, and it seemed like Mike is run this quite more efficiently than I had thought. And I hope we get maybe one or two more questions. We can extend for another 5 minutes. So we'll sort of leave things kind of open for the next 5 minutes or so, in case anybody have any other question they want to throw Mike's way. While we're waiting for that to happen, I have one more question I would like to ask. Um, for people who may already be very close to graduating, maybe they're
mhm.
going to graduate at the end of this fall or in the spring. So they don't have the time to like start building their brand. That takes a long time and all of that. What other approach do you suggest they might take, perhaps to be job ready and look for a job? Not necessarily an internship, because internship sort of suggests something you do when you're still a student. But if you're already graduating, degree in hand in a few weeks, in a few months, I'm not sure that internship is the word we're going to use, but you need to start paying the bills. You need to get a job. Do you have
Yeah.
any last minute, any last points, any pointers, any advice, just for your job search for something within a short term turnaround?
Yeah, I definitely do. I'll go back to my opening presentation. It helps to have a plan, right? So if you don't have a plan tied to your why, you're going to struggle. Like flying from Los Angeles to New York City as an aviator, military aviator, and a civilian aviator, if you are off 1 degree in your flight planning, flying from LA to New York City, you'll be off 62 miles by your destination. So what's the message there? Sitting in the planning room, the flight planning room, and making sure you're planning and planning some more prevents you from being off your destination by 62 miles. Okay. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes. Are you going to land the most perfect job out of college? No. But if you don't have a plan and you're just going to wing it, you're going to walk the stage at Fresno State or CSU Long Beach and just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to go out there and make it happen. Start now. But I don't have the time. It's finals, coming up on finals and holidays, and I have a job. You have the time. You do have the time. When I was in grad school in Chicago, I was running Validus Medical Systems, a software company out of Santa Cruz, California. I was also running Granite Bay Medical with employees that were going into surgery, and I had 2 young children at home. You think I had a lot of time? There's a saying, if you want to get something done, give it to someone who's busy. You have the time, you're just choosing not to do it. You can turn the TV off, wake up an hour early, work on your plan every day. You worked on your plan for 10 minutes a day over 7 days a week. Do the math. And then when you graduate in June of 2025 or January of 2025, you'll be that much closer to your goal, right? Again, it's not really any different than it was when I went to market. Beautiful thing is you have technology available today to help you do it. Okay. The world's a lot more competitive, not going to lie to you. The world is a lot more competitive, but you're in the California state school system, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You don't have to go to Harvard or Northwestern. You're going to be fine. You just got to be resilient and disciplined and have a plan and make sure that your why helps you get to really closer to where you want to be. Now, I will tell you, it's taken me a lot of years to get here today, a lot of years. So be kind. Don't be hard on yourself. You're not going to be the CEO of your first job. You're going to do a job that you probably don't love, but you're going to learn from it and you're going to leverage it to do something that you like a little bit more. Okay? Make sense? Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely,
but
Mike. Thank you
excuses,
very
there are
much.
no excuses. What we're saying is there are no excuses. You can do it. You really can. And
That's great.
I'm gonna put
All
my
right.
LinkedIn. I'm gonna put my
It's five
LinkedIn
minutes
profile here.
past the hour, and Mike is going
Yes.
to put his LinkedIn into the chat box for everyone. Click on it, save it, forward it to yourself. Feel free to send him a message. Mike is willing and able and ready to accept your LinkedIn request. You can ask him more questions in LinkedIn. You can interact with him and you can ask advice. You can have him link you to his network. All kinds of things can happen. And you
Mhm.
notice that Mike talked a lot about LinkedIn today, and I can tell you the same thing. LinkedIn is an extremely powerful tool. It is so powerful, I think that almost everybody on this call right now is underutilizing LinkedIn. I promise you, you are not remotely putting LinkedIn to the maximum use that it can be put. It's an
Mhm.
extremely powerful place. I personally has grown my own brand. Now I think I have a little over 7,000 followers. And it's taken about 4 or 5 years to get there. Now I try to post something maybe once every week. And there is no shortage of stuff to post because within my network, people repost things that I find exciting, I find interesting. I just repost it with my own comments. In LinkedIn, you don't even have to worry about creating new content. It's not even necessary. There's lots of content you can co-opt. Add your
Mhm.
own comments to it, repost it, and everybody in your network will see it. And the more stuff you post of the kind of things you find interesting and exciting, you start to build a brand, you start to build a following. And send out a lot of requests for connections. Many people also looking to grow their own network will accept your request, and it's all mutually beneficial as you guys keep to grow each other's network. I want to thank Mike for taking our time to talk to us today, and I hope that he will come back again in the near future to talk to us again. And on that note, I would want us to appreciate Mike and say thank you to him. You can send a message in the chat box. He will see it as well. So over the next 2 or 3 minutes, we will bring this webinar to an end. Thank you very much, Mike. I
Thank
hope I
you.
hope you have a good night in Sweden.
I think I will. I appreciate it. Really means a lot to have been here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.